Welcome to Mysteries and Crime, the channel where we uncover the darkest mysteries and most chilling cases of all time. If you enjoy exploring unsolved mysteries and diving into the depths of true crime, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world and helps us continue bringing these incredible stories to light. Today, we're unraveling the mystery of one of the most notorious and confounding serial killers in American history. A figure who operated in shadows, leaving behind a trail of terror, cryptic messages, and questions that remain unanswered to this day. This is the story of the Zodiac Killer, a name synonymous with fear in the late 1960s and early 1970s in Northern California. It all began on December 20th, 1968, on a secluded stretch of Lake Herman Road in Benicia, California. Teenagers Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday were on their first date. A shy and excited David had promised Betty Lou's parents he'd have her home by 11 p.m. They parked on a remote road, a known spot for young couples, seeking a bit of privacy to talk and get to know each other. But what started as a sweet moment between two teens ended in tragedy. At approximately 10:15 p.m., another car pulled up beside them. The driver stepped out and approached their vehicle. Moments later, shots rang out. Betty Lou tried to flee, but she was gunned down just a few feet from the car. David was shot point blank, slumped against the vehicle. By the time a passerby discovered the scene, it was too late. Two promising young lives were cut short. There were no witnesses, no immediate leads, and no clear motive. The small, quiet town of Benicia was left reeling in shock and fear. The murders seemed almost random, and while authorities worked tirelessly to piece together the puzzle, they had little to go on. Friends and family of the victims were left heartbroken, and the community's trust in their safety was shattered. It wasn't until months later, when a second crime took place, that the picture began to shift. Fast forward to July 4th, 1969, just 7 months later. In nearby Vallejo, another young couple became the target of a brutal attack. Darlene Ferrain and Mike Majot had driven to Blue Rock Springs Park to enjoy a peaceful evening. As they sat in Darlene's car, a second vehicle pulled up behind them. A man stepped out, approached their car, and without warning, opened fire with a 9mm handgun. Darlene was killed instantly, while Mike survived despite being severely injured. He described the attacker as a stocky white male in his late 20s to early 30s with short dark hair. This chilling attack bore striking similarities to the Lake Herman Road murders, but investigators struggled to find connections. Then the case took a sinister and deeply unsettling turn. On August 1st, 1969, 3 letters arrived at newspapers across the Bay Area: the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald. Each letter began with the words, "Dear Editor, I am the killer of the 2 teenagers last Christmas at Lake Herman." The letters were laced with chilling arrogance, detailing the crimes and claiming credit for the Blue Rock Springs attack. But that wasn't all. Each letter contained a cryptogram, a coded message the killer demanded be published on the front page. He threatened to kill again if his demands were not met. The ciphers captivated the public and experts alike. Amateur codebreakers and professional cryptographers scrambled to solve them. Days later, a married couple from Salinas, California, cracked the first cipher. Its contents were disturbing. The killer described his love for murder, likening it to a game, and boasting about his plans to hunt humans. However, the cipher did not reveal his identity, leaving authorities no closer to catching him. As weeks passed, the killer struck again. On September 27, 1969, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were picnicking by Lake Berryessa, a serene and picturesque spot. Out of nowhere, a man wearing an executioner-style hood approached them. His outfit bore a mysterious crosshair symbol on the chest. He bound their hands with pre-cut lengths of rope, and then, without mercy, stabbed them repeatedly. Brian survived the ordeal and provided a harrowing account of the attack, but Cecilia succumbed to her injuries days later. Before fleeing, the killer left a chilling message on the victim's car door. It included the dates of his crimes, the weapon used, and his infamous crosshair symbol, which had by now become his signature. The Zodiac's actions weren't just about murder. They were calculated performances meant to instill terror and gain notoriety. On October 11, 1969, Paul Stein, a San Francisco cab driver, became the Zodiac's next known victim. Unlike his previous attacks on couples, this was a single targeted killing. Paul was shot in the head at point-blank range while driving his cab in the Presidio Heights neighborhood. The killer tore off a piece of Paul's bloodied shirt and sent it to the San Francisco Chronicle, along with yet another taunting letter. In this letter, the Zodiac claimed he was planning to attack a school bus, writing, "I think I shall wipe out a school bus some morning, just shoot out the front tire, and pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out." This threat sent shockwaves through the community. Parents lived in fear, and police presence around school routes was heightened. Despite the public panic, no such attack occurred. The Zodiac's chilling communication did more than terrify. It captivated the media and turned his crimes into a macabre spectacle. Radio programs debated his motives, newspapers published his taunts, and the public's fear became palpable. For the killer, this was likely part of the thrill. Controlling the narrative and knowing his name was on everyone's lips. It wasn't just murder, it was a twisted form of performance art. By now, the Zodiac's taunts, ciphers, and threats were national news. The police worked tirelessly, following every lead and interrogating potential suspects. One man, Arthur Lee Allen, emerged as a prime suspect. He was a Vallejo resident with a history of troubling behavior, and circumstantial evidence seemed to point in his direction. Allen's friends reported he had an interest in cryptography and had once boasted about hunting humans. Investigators discovered he owned a Zodiac brand watch, which bore the same crosshair symbol the killer used. However, no physical evidence ever tied him definitively to the crimes. Over the years, the Zodiac sent dozens of letters, each more bizarre and cryptic than the last. In total, he sent 4 major ciphers. While the first was solved, 3 remained unsolved for decades. The most famous of these, known as Z340, was finally cracked in 2020 by an international team of codebreakers. The message, while chilling, offered no clues to his identity. It read, "I hope you are having lots of fun and trying to catch me." He went on to deny responsibility for a high-profile case at the time, leaving more questions than answers. Despite the killer's apparent hunger for attention, his letters abruptly stopped in 1974. Did he die? Was he arrested for an unrelated crime? Or did he simply decide to vanish into obscurity? Theories abound, but definitive answers remain elusive. For the families of the Zodiac's victims, the lack of resolution is a bitter pill. Betty, Lou Jensen's younger sister, once described the agony of knowing her sister's killer was never caught. Survivors like Brian Hartnell and Mike Mageau have lived with the haunting memories of their encounters with the Zodiac, their lives forever scarred by his actions. As time passed, the Zodiac became a figure of morbid fascination. Books, movies, and documentaries have explored his crimes, theories about his identity, and the enduring mystery surrounding his case. But for those closest to the tragedy, he is not a character in a story. He is a monster who stole lives and shattered families. Advancements in forensic technology have brought renewed hope. DNA analysis and genetic genealogy, the same techniques used to capture the Golden State Killer, could one day unmask the Zodiac. In recent years, investigators have re-examined old evidence, hoping to find a DNA match. While progress has been slow, the possibility of closure remains. But the Zodiac's mystique goes beyond the murders themselves. He is a symbol of fear, control, and unsolved crime, a reminder of the evil that can lurk in plain sight. His taunts, cryptic messages, and ability to elude justice captured the imagination of a nation. To this day, online forums, podcasts, and amateur sleuths continue to pore over his ciphers and letters, hoping to uncover a clue that everyone else missed. The Zodiac's case is a reminder of the complexities and frustrations of criminal investigations. Despite countless hours of work by law enforcement and the tireless efforts of amateur sleuths, the mystery endures. Perhaps it is this very elusiveness that keeps the Zodiac Killer firmly entrenched in the public consciousness. He is not just a criminal, but a symbol of unsolved mysteries, a reminder that some questions may never be answered. As we conclude today's story, we acknowledge the pain and loss experienced by the victims' families. Their stories deserve to be told, not for the Zodiac's infamy, but for the humanity of those whose lives he took or forever altered. We know this information is difficult to hear, but it is vital that these stories are shared to honor the victims and to remind us of the importance of seeking justice, even decades later. Thank you for joining us on Mysteries and Crime. If you found this story compelling, please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more unsolved mysteries and true crime cases. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.